Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could just remain standing for one more moment, for a moment of silence for the victims of the wildfires in California. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Councilor Committo?
Present.
Councilor Hayden?
Present.
Councilor Janick?
Present.
Councilor DeMedeiros?
Present.
Councilor Edwards?
Present.
Councilor Paull?
Present.
Councilor Perry?
Present.
All present.
Thank you. All right, consent agenda. We have approval of Town Council minutes, December 9th, 2024, regular session, December 9th, 2024, executive session. We have acknowledged receipt of minutes from boards and commissions committees. Planning Board 9, Litter Control 1, Economic Development Commission 1, Board of Canvassers 1, Personnel Board 2, Harbor Commission 1, Conservation Commission 1, Historic Preservation Advisory Board 1. Acknowledge receipt of reports, Town Administrator Department's monthly reports, December 2024, Police and Fire Department overtime reports, December 2024. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence, Gail Lawrence, letter related to the Lafayette House. Harbor Commission, letter related to the lots on Bay and Foot Streets. Freedom Energy Logistics requesting opportunity for presentation, which has been set for 2/24/2025. Mike Burke, letter related to the Tiverton Industrial Park. Harbor Commission / Marco Dirks, follow-up letter on request to add Mount Hope Bay Greenway to the State Transportation Improvement Program. Approval of tax assessor abatements in the amount of $5,355.95. Approval of DPW budget transfers, $60,000 from account 5540-5101, DPW maintenance workers to account 5540-6648, equipment repair, and $16,000 from account 5540-5101, DPW maintenance workers to account 5130-5180, maintenance / labor seasonal. Would any councilors like to remove any from the consent agenda? Councilor Janick.
I would like to remove D 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Any other councilors? Councilor Perry.
B1, Planning Board, 11-12 meetings, page 8.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, do I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll start with Councilor Perry, since he only has one. Councilor Janick, if that's all right with you.
That would be fine.
Councilor Perry,
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
we can come back if you like.
Yeah. All
All right, Councilor Janick.
I have it, I'm sorry.
Oh, never mind, Councilor Perry.
I got it. I just want to make sure that this is correct. If you look at page 8, there's another historical home on 439 Main Road that has approval to be demolished. I just want to make sure that this is correct.
Mr. Administrator?
It's in the minutes from the planning board on page 8. It was authorized by Stu Hardy, voted on 8-0 by the planning board, and it gave authority for the owner to demolish the home on 439 Main Road.
I'd have to look into that, Mr. President.
Mr. Solicitor, you look like you want to say
Well, the
something?
planning board has authority to authorize, as part of a master plan or development plan review, but the permit still has to be issued by the building official.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that was part of the master plan.
So that's part of the...
It's part of it, I'm assuming, just looking at the minutes, I wasn't at that meeting, but I'm assuming that's, if there's a structure on a property and they're trying to redevelop the property in some way, the planning board will approve a plan saying this X is gonna go and, or gonna stay and whatnot, but the permit still has to be issued by the building official to demolish.
Because it's still standing, I went
Yeah.
by it, it's still up.
They're probably, I don't know if they got preliminary plan approval, they're probably at the very
Well,
early.
this is preliminary
Oh,
plan.
so this is final approval, so preliminary is the final
Right,
approval,
this
so.
is preliminary plan. I just don't want to get into that situation again.
The permit still has to be issued by the.
Okay. I just want to bring it to the attention.
Mr. President, so I did watch that meeting when that came up, and the planning board was more than aware of the historical nature of it. I believe they even pressed the property owner to actually want to do a site visit and walk through the property, walk through the house before any determination is made. But again, I watched that meeting and they were not thrilled, knowing the property owner's rights, they were not thrilled, but they did insist on at least getting into the structure, which I believe was granted, so.
And I, just to follow up, I did just got a text from our friend Todd Romano, who is the counsel for the planning board, indicating that Mr. Hoyle did issue the permit months ago to demolish that property, and Ms. Anderson was aware of it as well. So the permit has been issued, it just hasn't been demolished yet.
Okay.
Councilor Perry, do we have a motion to accept B1?
There's still three more.
Yeah, you want to do ours first?
All right, we can do that. We'll do them all as a group. Councilor Janick.
Mine are more informational. So the first one, Gail Lawrence letter related to the Lafayette House, and I know we're going to update on that later. I just wanted to point out that she was asking about petitioning the appropriate state agency regarding the historic marker that should be erected at that site. So if we can keep that in mind as we go along with the plan. The second one, the Harbor Commission, related to lots on Bay and Foot Street, and they're in favor of turning these into, they want to recommend these parcels be returned to the residential status. So what do we do with this? Do we forward this? Because this would be part of zoning.
I would forward it to the planning board for their recommendation. And Ms. Hilton did get a copy, the chair of the planning board did get a copy of that letter, so.
Okay. The third one is the Freedom Energy Logistics. The letter that they sent us said they want to make a presentation to the Burrowville Town Council, and I just thought
saw
that was
that.
a typo. So they really are going to come to us, right, in February?
Correct.
We're gonna go to Burrowville, it's gonna be a
Field trip.
Okay. Just to make note, Mr. Burke had sent a letter about the Tiverton Industrial Park, and he did send it to us last week, but he did, so now it's part of our official minutes.
And D5.
And D5, the Harbor Commission, the Open Space Commission. So this is about doing the Mont Hope Bay Greenway. Has this been added to the state transportation improvement program?
Not that I'm aware of at this time,
Okay.
no.
If you need more information, I can probably give it to you. It's pending, so that's the thing.
Okay. Can they speak?
When,
Mark Reverse. I just wanted
Is this-
to make the town council aware of the important date coming up
Okay.
in February.
if you wouldn't mind just doing the microphone, sorry.
Sure.
That way the people at home watching will hear your comments.
Okay, very good. So the DOT has gone to an electronic application system. They're sending out applications for projects sometime in February. So,
Okay.
what we need to do to get on the STIP is to fill out the application online, and it's an important date not to miss. That's hence the letter. So,
Thank you.
and at some point, if any of the council members would be happy to do a presentation on the
I think we've gone through this once or twice before, so,
Exactly.
over the prior councils. So perhaps we can, if you'd be amenable to it, reach out to the administrator with some of the details, that would be fantastic.
Sure, yeah, I'd be,
Be happy to work with you, sir.
appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Counselor Janick or Counselor
I-
Perry, do we have a motion?
I have a motion to approve acknowledgement receipt of 4 of D 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5,
And B1.
B1.
and B1.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? None opposed? All right, moving on. Okay, so public comments. Oh, I'm sorry, you're absolutely correct. So this time, I'd like to ask for, can I make the motion? All right. I'd like to make a motion that pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 4246-6B, I would like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda under general business to include an item for discussion only related to the correspondence from the Tiverton School Department dated January 10th, 2025, concerning the Tiverton School deficit for FY 2025 and corrective action plan.
Second.
All right. Roll call. Councilor Committo.
Yes.
Councilor Hayden.
Yes.
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 All right, so we'll do that as 7A is where that will fall. All right. Next up is the public comment. We have some people signed up. Before we ask you to come up, I just want to make a comment. The last meeting, somebody did approach, provide some public comments and some comments specifically related to personnel of the town of Tiverton were made. So as you come up to offer your comments, by all means, please keep those remarks within 3 minutes. But if you do start to stray into making disparaging comments about the employees, you will be cut off. So first up is Peter Moniz regarding the Semi-Quincentennial Commission.
You got it right.
Just state your name and address for the
I'm
record.
trying to do that.
Okay,
I got
sorry.
3 minutes, it's not yet. My name is Peter Monis, 83 Captain Circle. My latest endeavor with the town for a venture is Semi-Quin Centennial. Basically, I'm going to follow my resolution here. You guys can get a copy of this resolution off the clerk or online. It's very easy. But I'm just going to cover a very few points that I'm concerned about right now, not the complete detail about this resolution. It was passed a year ago in February, approximately, I think it's February 8, 24, and basically there hasn't been much advancement in this selection of members and committee action because we can't do anything until we get it organized and moving along. So that's a problem there. I think you guys have to look into it. Just the goals of this committee or commission, I just want to just sort of read those off if I can find my stuff here. It's, to work with the Rhode Island committee, same committee, and then, of course, form a committee in Tiverton. And of course, the committee is celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence of this country. And then another big important goal is to undertake appropriate efforts to plan and implement celebrations of the 250th anniversary of the 1776 signing of the Declaration of Independence, the Revolutionary War, Rhode Island leading role in the birth of the United States of America, and the creation of a political foundations of the United States of America, and highlighting the role of Tiverton and its citizens. So that's the main goal for that. But basically, for the town itself, or our committee, or the town's committee, basically, is to come up with some ideas, events, and to work in the future to organize these and get them promoted and celebrated throughout the town. And then the basic makeup of the committee is, I think it's a boilerplate resolution that came down from the state, and a lot of towns are adopting the same ones. But one member from the Tiverton Town Council, which was appointed last time, or a couple weeks back, you voted for, or you selected yourself to get on there, and they approve of you, so they don't mind you be on that committee. Then there's public members, myself, and I got Christine Costa to participate in this committee. She's a well-known teacher in the town, and she got appointed by the board, your town council, and also, my minutes up?
Yeah, 3 minutes are up, but if you wouldn't mind, you can make some final comments and then.
Please?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, the problem with the board makeup is these other commissions, which I'm just going to read them off, is the Historical, Open Space, Recreational, Tiverton School Committee, Department, and the Tiverton Library Board of Trustees. I got one member from the trustees to join by that trustees, but they haven't submitted the name, I don't believe yet. But the biggest problem is, getting the members from these committees get to you, and you guys say, okay, that's fine. Other towns, or one town at least, said that they amended the resolution to say, have it just public members, because I guess they're running into the same problems of a poor person is on one committee, now he's being forced to be on another committee. That's kind of tough. So, let's see, my notes quickly, 2.5 minutes I got left, right?
No, we're already well over 3 minutes.
Oh, no. So, to organize this group, it takes time. And you guys, we delay it more and more, we can't do nothing to get it done properly. So, the year 2026 will be coming up soon, and we'll be here and doing nothing. Now, if the town doesn't want to celebrate, tell us, or tell me, I can go home and rest, or, you guys got to get this done. Normally, in the past, I went on the tree commission and other committees. The town administrator was the main flag bearer to get the commissions going. Then they pass it off to the person that was elected chair and stuff like that. But that wasn't done this time around, I believe, because I was here before and I didn't see any reaction there done. So I'll cut it short. We got to get it going if we want to be successful. And to get it to be successful is to get a large number of citizens of this town aware of the celebration, participate in the celebration, and enjoy the celebration.
Thank you. All right, next up is Jay Edwards related to item 7G. Where is the former counselor?
Would it be possible for me to delay my comments until you get to the agenda item?
Yes, sir. All right, next up is Joanna Ruda, statement from the Personnel Board.
Good evening. Honorable Council, Jim Camara and I would like to clarify a statement made in public by one of the town administrator applicants at the town council meeting held on January 6, 2025, which we feel cast an unfavorable appearance, undeservingly, of the Personnel Board. As in our procedures, during the review process of the applications and for any position, each applicant is sent an email with their application status on the Opens and Meetings Notice, Rhode Island General Laws 42465A1, to their email address supplied by them on their application or resume. This applicant and the 5 other applicants were sent, as required, the open meetings notice advising them that their application was received and will be reviewed on 12/5/24 by the Personnel Board. This applicant, who made the public remarks twice, said he was not notified of the receipt of his application or resume. Upon further review, a notice was sent to him on December 3rd, 2024, to his email of record. Rest assured, we are very vigilant regarding these open meeting notices for the review and interview process. In addition, all council members were invited to attend the applicant interview, which was held on 12/16/24, and some members did attend. That same evening, the Personnel Board voted unanimously to forward the applicant to the council for their consideration. In closing, we are all here with the best intentions to do the right things, and we're trying to do the best for the citizens of Tiverton. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I'll just submit this to the clerk.
Former Counselor Burke, would you like to hold off until? Okay. Maureen Morrow.
Good evening. Maureen Morrow, 47 Peaceful Way. I do want to comment about 7G. I just don't know if I'm going to be staying for the full meeting, so I'll just go ahead and say what I want to say. So last Saturday, I attended the public meeting at Tiverton High and listened to a really well-prepared presentation by the Committee for the Revitalization of North Tiverton. They then organized a great community forum led by the consultants, where we sat around a table. We had a very diverse group. We had a person who lives on one of the cross streets between Fish and Maine, who of course is really affected. We had a fairly new couple who live in North Tiverton who really were engaged. Really good things came out of that forum. And I could see that this committee has made a lot of progress. So I've lived in town for 27 years. I remember about 15 years ago, this effort was undertaken to try to bring North Tiverton into some sort of cohesive, more attractive state with some redesign. And that didn't move forward for a couple of reasons. And so I'm going to be really interested to see what Councilor Hayden's thoughts are and why this was introduced, because I think it's wonderful for the town. People are engaged. They've already made a lot of progress, and to stop the momentum on this would be really foolish. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and Ann Lawton, would you like to wait until the item comes up, or go now?
No, I'll go now.
All right, perfect.
Hello. Some of you may have gotten my email. I sent an email around. Basically, I'm a volunteer on the subcommittee. We've been working for about a year and a half now. And my concern is, I know from coming to various meetings that it's hard to find volunteers. So if after a year and a half of work, you tell the volunteers who, we're not getting paid, oh, guess what? We don't care that you've been working for a year and a half, we're going to dismantle the committee. Well, you're going to have some trouble getting people to volunteer, I think. A second thing, I did not grow up here. I come from Michigan, and I've been here about 20 years, and I like Tiverton. But one of the things that I realized when I moved here was there's this weird thing about North Tiverton and South Tiverton. I didn't know this existed until I started talking to some of my neighbors and going on walks. So I think that, you know, there's a feeling among some residents of North Tiverton that town cares about South Tiverton but not North Tiverton. I don't know that that's justified, but I think that's the feeling. And I think if you dismantle a committee that's dedicated to working to help improve North Tiverton, you're going to make that worse. And I'll give you an example. Most recently, you know how Lynch is redone the highway going down toward Coastal Roasters and the sidewalks? It's lovely. So I commented to a couple of people. I said, oh, it's great. You know what the response was? Yeah, well, when are they going to do that for North Tiverton? So last but not least, if you dismantle this committee, you've got a contract with Weston and Sampson. And they could sue you for breach of contract. I don't know whether they will sue you for breach of contract, but they could. And, you know, this is not a whole heck of a lot of money, actually, for the contract. But I do think that if the town breaches that contract, forget about the money involved, think about the reputation hit. Because you'll take a hit as a town that does not honor its contracts. So that's all I have to say. I hope that you vote against the motion or resolution or what it's called. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Appointments and resignations. Acknowledgement of resignation, Diana Perdomo from the Budget Committee, effective 1/7/2025. Do I have a, sorry?
Mr. President, I make a motion to accept the resignation of Diana Perdomo from the Budget Committee with thank you and with regret.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor? All right. Board of Canvassers, Republican seat vacated 11/27/2024, term ending 10/15/2027. The Republicans' alternate is Lori Myers, and it's my understanding that they will submit us the 5 names for her replacement, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
She moves up to the membership position, and then they'll send in the 5 names for the alternate.
All right, and I have to make this motion as the chair, correct? Okay. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lori Myers to the Board of Canvassers for the Republican seat for a term ending 10/15/2027.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Can I just ask a question? I was confused on this item, so her alternate position has expired?
No.
Or-
So the primary member of the Republican Town Committee has stepped
Has
down, so the
resigned, right.
alternate is now stepping up.
So she's stepping up.
And then next meeting, we'll have the list of 5 names to replace the alternate
Okay, that's
that
what
we're required to
so-
receive.
So hers had not expired, so we need to
Correct.
fill that, okay.
Yeah. Historic Preservation Advisory Board, 5-member board. Oh. We all voted.
Yeah, we voted.
I've made the motion.
I second.
Seconded by Councilor
But I
Janick.
second
No,
it.
no.
After the fact. We all voted. It was unanimous.
Yeah, she discussed it after.
She's been
Counselor
here,
Janick went rogue.
I knew we
she's
were
been here
appointing
all
her, I
day.
just
Yeah.
didn't understand if she was stepping down or.
All right. So Historic Preservation Advisory Board, 5-member board, 3-year terms, 1 vacancy. Zachary Garrett, 30 Edmund Lane, request appointment for a term ending 10/15/2027. Is Zachary present? No. Did we have any correspondence?
I don't believe so.
No.
Just a resume, right? Or application.
Just the application?
Motion to table, or?
All right, so we can either have a motion to table, or we can waive our policy and appoint this evening, whatever the council's pleasure.
He has an awesome.
I'll make a
resume.
motion to waive the policy and move Zach forward into the position.
Do we have a second? All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
He
I
just,
Councilor
do,
DeMedeiros?
I do just want to ask a quick question. There's only 1 vacancy, right, Joan? And no one else applied for this at all? Yeah, okay.
and his resume
It's good.
is so in line.
Yeah, he seems
so-
passionate about it, very passionate.
Right.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor? All right, zoning revision committee, we have to table that? Okay, like to make a motion, or like to ask for a motion to table this because we have to revise the board composition.
So
later on.
moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, so we'll do this one after that item comes up in general business. All right, assignment of town councilor liaisons for boards and commissions. See attached list. There are several. So, Councilor DeMedeiros.
All right, so I want to put myself on cemetery with David, which I was originally, and I decided to stay there. And I want to be taken off the personnel board. There's already 3 anyway. So, I mean, there's so many
Okay.
vacancies, I don't see why we should have 3. And I've been doing it for a long time, so it's someone else's turn. And I think that's all I want to say.
All right, anybody else have any boards or commissions they'd like to be liaisons
Are
for?
you just looking to fill positions that are empty right now?
Correct.
Or are we acknowledging the ones that were already filled?
Whichever ones you'd like, so if you,
Can I
if,
borrow that real quick?
yes.
I just want to acknowledge that I joined the Arts Commission, Historical Cemeteries Commission, Personnel Board, and the Zoning Board of Review,
And I just want to make it clear, I just took dog park.
and Open Space Land Preservation, sorry. I forgot that one.
Counselor Committo, do you have any commissions you'd like to be liaison for? I can come back to you if you'd like.
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, Counselor Janick.
I would like to be added to the Historical Preservation Advisory Board.
Where are you?
And I am already on the Budget Committee and Planning and Zoning.
All right, so, Counselor Perry, are you satisfied with your selections?
So moved.
Counselor Paull, any additions, subtractions? We have you on cemetery, EDC, Housing Authority, Juvenile Hearing Board. Who's litter committee? It just says counselor.
I'll go litter committee and dog park as well.
That's easy.
Oh, David's gonna take- How many empties do we have here? Quite a bit.
So we've got conservation, harbor and coastal waters management, library board of trustees, where we at? Tax assessor board of review, town farm renovation, and tree commission.
I'll go to town farm renovation.
Greg, you might like harbor and coastal too.
I'll do the harbor and coastal.
Wow, that was easy.
Twist his arm.
Well, I think he'd be interested in it.
Okay, anybody for conservation, library board of trustees, tax assessor, or tree commission? No takers. I guess that
I'll do the tree commission.
tree commission, perfect.
Thanks for the guy.
So that leaves tax assessor, library board, and conservation, and if there are no takers, by virtue of being the chair, I guess those would fall to me.
So, yeah. ended up with 10.
Sounds great.
Anybody want to relieve me? No? Okay.
And keep in mind as well,
This doesn't preclude anybody from going to any of the meetings. It's just, this is, the role of this is for those commissions, if they have questions, to come to that specific person, so.
I'll go over with the Cemetery Commission with Hayden.
There's two, there's a historical
Cemetery,
one and a
which
regular one, so make sure.
historical cemetery?
Historical.
Okay.
And John, I was the library auditor. I've been there for years. So if you want me to just do it, because I have communications with them.
The only question I would have for the solicitor, my father sits on that board. Would that be in any way an issue? Okay.
It's up to you. I mean,
All right. I mean, I'll grab that one. That's
grab
fine.
that
Yeah. I've got police pension, recycling committee, and the Bristol County Convention Visitors Bureau, so
I'm taking conservation too.
I'll take whatever's open. So I'll take library.
Is the school building missing? Wasn't there a school building?
That's the standing committee for the school committee.
It's different.
Yeah. So that's not ours. That's,
No, but actually,
It-
I'm on that
We
committee,
need someone else.
and you were, so we actually need another council person.
I thought we appointed at the last
Well,
meeting.
you know what?
We talked.
Or the first.
I thought Dave was on the
David was
Yeah.
on it as a
building.
as a
Yeah.
citizen
It is, yeah, and our motion was to move Counselor Perry up
to the council.
to the council seat,
position.
and then the school committee now needs to find another member of the public.
Okay,
All right.
that's right, I do recall that.
Madam Clerk, did you get me down for all the opens?
I have everything.
Beautiful. All right. That was easy. Okay, so 7A is actually going to be the discussion only, this letter that was received from the school committee. I will start it off. Hopefully, everybody's had an opportunity to take a look, but the gist of it is this. The school committee sent notification to the town. They sent notification to the Auditor General and to RIDE that they are projecting a current year, fiscal year deficit of $398,000 or $465. So $398,465. It's my understanding this number could potentially move higher, depending on some various factors. They're still trying to figure that piece out. Along with this notification, the school put together a tentative corrective action plan, which has been attached for everybody. It seems that we are in the week one, analyze and identify deficit source and communicate with appropriate bodies, which would be us, as well as the Auditor General. So I anticipate future communications from the school committee, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know if anybody has anything they would like to add. Councilor DeMedeiros.
I didn't.
I saw you going for the microphone.
My concern is they didn't say where the deficit is and how this was caused, but I'm sure that's going to happen at some point, because it would be interesting to know how this occurred. That's one of my things. I'm concerned about, I think it's item 4, and enhance revenue. And when it says increase revenue, collaborate with the town council on different avenues, such as gaming revenue to offset the potential deficit. Well, first of all, the gaming revenue is for capital. And if we offset their deficit with one-time money, we increase their deficit even more. So I don't know what to say about that one. And as far as different avenues, we have a budget. We have a budget for this year, and I don't think that we can change that. If we were off $200,000, we'd have to find savings. And it's an awful thing to say, but I think we were more than generous to them this year, and we really tried, John and Dave and all of us tried to find ways to actually find the money and to manipulate this. So they asked for 4%, but I believe we gave them over 3%.
It was like 3.98%.
Yes. So, and now they're saying they need more money. So I have a concern about this. That's all.
Councilor Committo.
That money that was given was to make them just even, right? So
So
they say?
the ask was for 4%. They initially looked for like $5 million. It was an insane jump. They whittled the budget down and settled on 4% or close to it in order to maintain Fort Barton School down the road from us. And at one of the final budget meetings, we shifted some things around. We took out some time payments, offset those dollars with capital. We took some capital expenditures out of their budget for technology and textbooks, and paid for that with casino gaming revenue. So we ended up getting them close to $1 million last year. It's worth noting that if we are in a position where we have to plug this gap, under state law, any deficit reduction is not counted towards the maintenance of effort. So even if we were to use, let's say we had ARPA funds kicking around and we use those, that would not go towards their maintenance of effort. Yeah, so it would just close the shortfall this year.
So this deficit is for this, the
That's
rest of
this
this?
current, yeah, the rest of
current
this year. So as
Nothing
of,
even going forward?
correct, as of June 30th is when their fiscal ends, and they are required by state law to balance the budget. I would also add that it's nice that we got this early from the school committee, because it was well into February last year when they identified the shortfall, or the perceived shortfall. And at least this year, they are following state law to the letter. Councilor Janick.
I was not aware that that would not be part of maintenance of effort, and is that a one-time? I mean, if we were to plug this now and then we go a few months later and they need more, or is it like the whole entire total for the year?
No, so it's the delta between, so basically their maintenance of effort, if, let's say we get to the budget season and it's $1 more is the vote, it would be based off of our original allocation for this budget year, not the dollars,
Oh.
not the overage, so.
Not that overage,
And if
okay.
you read the letter, essentially what happened is we allocated a budget, and if you read through this, it appears that the shortfall was originally 1.5 million for this year. They've used one-time dollars, meeting a couple meetings, school committee meetings ago, they agreed on the sale of an asset from one of the coalitions that they were a part of, to which they got, I think it was like $390-some thousand for. That's already been used into that 1.5 million. So we allocated them X, and they spent X plus $1.5 million more this year.
And now need
So-
400,000 more.
Yeah, so it's fair to say, the prior council had a very transparent and open discussion with them. We settled on a number, and they chose to spend far in excess of what they were allocated. Councilor Perry, Councilor Paull. Any comments? No? All right. So just so everybody is aware, as far as next steps, obviously, we're going to have to engage with the school committee. It was too late. It was sent too late on Friday for us to get it on the agenda for this evening to take any votes or take any course of action. And also, it was sent too early for us, or too late for us to get it on the agenda for tomorrow evening's joint budget meeting. So this will probably come back around on 127, which will give us some time to strategize as far as what the next steps are. There has been this has happened in prior communities, so North Kingston is a good example, or South Kingston, I'm sorry. In South Kingston, the town council actually had to seek injunctive relief in order to stop the schools from spending once they were notified of the budget. North Kingston, my apologies. Middletown, we were able to negotiate with the school committee to find a solution, and then Johnston was somewhere in the middle, and that's an ongoing scenario. So more to come, but at least it's out in the public domain. And the important point to reinforce is that this is not because the town has not supported the school system, it's because the school system has spent significantly more than they were given. Councilor Janick.
Do they have it on the agenda for tomorrow night?
They do?
It's on their school
Their
committee
school committee,
agenda,
but not
just
budget.
not on our budget.
Not on our
meeting.
joint budget meeting, no.
So we can't talk about it at the budget if we're talking about future allocation and when,
I'm sure,
I wonder if we could
it's
tie
all
this in a little
encompassing,
bit.
yeah.
All right,
I think
all
so.
right, all right. We'll try.
All right. Anybody else have any points of discussion before we move along? Okay. 7A, Councilor Edwards, myself, discussion and possible vote regarding RIDOT disposition of surplus state land, state right-of-way adjacent to William S. Canning Boulevard and Stafford Road. Do we need what would the motion be to walk away from this?
to not exercise its right of first
Okay.
refusal, or to let it pass.
Discussion on it, though, just to clarify for the public, so.
Make a motion second, then we'll discuss.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we take no action on this offer from Rhode Island DOT and walk away.
Second.
All right, discussion, Counselor Perry. Sorry, Counselor Paull.
Yeah, no, it's just to clarify, if anybody's looking at this or if you're hearing of this, these are two small parcels of land, the triangular area just north of the roundabout. Apparently, the abutting property owner has expressed interest. This land is absolutely of no use to the town of Tiverton, other than we would have to pay somebody to cut the grass and maintain it. It makes no sense whatsoever for the price they're asking or for us to even touch it, so.
One
It's in
final
the background, right?
One final point of discussion. The reason why we have to either exercise or not exercise is because the town has first right of refusal on any disposition of property, so. All right. Motion's made and seconded. I'm sorry?
Is there any public input?
The solicitor. If you would be brief, Mr. Moniz.
I see one process.
Right to the microphone, sir.
One prospect of maybe it may be useful to the town. In the past time I was on the Economic Development Committee, each point of the entrance to the town, there was a request or a goal to put a sign to say, "Welcome to Tiverton." And this would be a good spot for that. And I read the letter from the DOT. It says no signs, but you can say, "Welcome to Tiverton, property of Tiverton," to bypass that requirement. That'd be an advantage to take.
Yeah, it would be a rather expensive proposition based on the offer price that we would have to pay.
15 cents, for $15 a square foot or something?
Correct.
Can't you buy a little part of it?
So, one more point of discussion there. So the state will continue to own property abutting the road. So if we have the state delegation coming to our next meeting. So perhaps we can ask the state delegation to allow us to put a sign there for you.
Not for me, for the town.
For the town. All right, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't part of
All right, so
it.
5-0, because
abstain.
You abstain?
Yeah, well, I wasn't part of the discussion. I have an emergency right now.
All right. Next item is interim town administrator discussion and possible vote to ratify part-time zoning officer contract. Counselor, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was a contract that was ratified by the former town administrator for Mr. Frank. He has started working. He's been in the office since before the holidays. It should be part of your backup with his contract, which is the standard town contract. Already, Mr. Frank has made an impact in that department, so it is my strong recommendation that you consider ratifying his contract for employment.
We have a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to ratify the contract for the part-time zoning officer, John Frank.
We have a second.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Counselor DeMedeiros.
All I want to say is I've heard nothing but great things about him, and he's doing a really good job. So I agree with you. Everyone's telling me.
Thank you, Council.
I have one quick question, and I actually have heard the same thing as well, Councilor DeMedeiros. Mr. Solicitor, this may or may not matter, but we're ratifying it under the current time, and it still has the prior administrator. But does that matter or no? Okay. All right.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? None? All right. DPW Director, discussion and possible vote to advertise the request for proposal for year 2025 specified recreational facility and turf management services. Brief explanation, Director Rogers.
Yes, thank you, John. It's first year, back in '22, it was renewed '23, '24, so now it has to go out for a bid, because it's only 2 one-year renewals allowed.
Perfect.
And if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Do we have a motion?
I have a question.
Counselor
You want a
Janick.
motion first?
Motion discussion would be proper, but by all means, ask your question.
In the past, Rick, have we had, this is the one we have now is the only one that we've had bid for this project?
Before, it
The
was
company, like this past year and the year before, only because I've heard that they're kind of a small company and they were kind of sparse in getting some of the grass cut. So there were organizations that were cutting their own lawn because the turf management company was not getting to the fields.
In 20, yes, Deb.
This
in
past summer,
2022
2024.
Yes. In 2024, there were some complaints. 2022, there's only one bidder. He was accepted. He was renewed in 23 and 24. The current RFP does have requirements for labor and equipment to be listed. Also, the pre-bid meeting and also a pre-start meeting after the contract is awarded. And we have solicited input from Recreation and from the leagues via Recreation.
Thank you.
Councilor DeMedeiros.
My understanding is maybe we're not, I don't know what we're offering for a price.
It's $29,000 in the
So it
budget.
might be a little bit too low, and that's why we're not getting bids for this. Because there's a lot of grass to be mowed.
There is.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's why we're only getting one person that applies for this position. Because there's so many now, and there's even added since 2022.
Right. Yes, yes, Denise, thank you. But no, there was no price set. It was an open bid. They could bid whatever they wanted. And in the renewal, they didn't necessarily up it in 23 or 24, but the present budget request for DPW, when we submitted it, I think in December, there was an increase in that budget line item. But again, it's going to depend on what people bid.
All right, do we have a
I have a motion to approve it.
a second?
Second.
All right, motion's made and second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Committo.
I mean, instead of going out for bid, do we think it's time to fill those positions that are left vacant at the Public Works and start taking care of our own Parks and Recreations with the 2 extra personnel that we will have and make a division of Parks and Rec, get the equipment, do what we gotta do, and take care of our own Parks and Recreation fields, grass. At least we have control, we know when it gets done, we have the right equipment. Which I believe there's 3 vacancies right now with Public Works.
Councilor DeMedeiros.
No, I think there's 2.
2, okay.
Right, there's 2.
Rick? How many vacancies?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Director.
there's one custodial maintenance that has been advertised, there have been applicants, and there is one truck driver laborer. So there are 2 vacant positions. Of course, it is, for a seasonal like that, more economical to sub it out than it is to hire somebody full-time and pay the benefits, et cetera, et cetera.
There's 2 open.
Yeah, the question on the openings is up for debate, but that's not for tonight. I do agree with Councilor Committo that it's possible to look in-house. I've heard at certain times that the guys don't have enough work, then I've heard that they're overworked. From what I've seen and from what I do on a daily basis being engaged in this community, we could absolutely use 2 or 3 more guys. And if their work is slow, there's plenty of grass to be cut.
Well, I mean, the fire station would go months at a time not being cut on Crandall Road. It'd get to sometimes a foot high. So either we have to have control of that bid or whoever, or I think it's time we go in-house and start doing our own.
Just so we're aware, approving the RFP and sending it out doesn't necessarily mean we have to award it. And if the solution is evaluating whether or not we want to take this work in-house, we still have time to do it.
Very good.
Yeah, one correction to what Craig said is that the fire station on Crandall Road is independent. They have in the past hired the same contractor, but it is not part of the bid. Southfield, next to fire station number 1 is.
That's not true.
I don't think
No,
that's true, Rick.
that's correct.
The director is correct. The fire department pays for that, the mowing of that grass out of their own budget. So that's not part of this bid.
And they're free to hire anybody they want.
So we clearly need to re-examine this whole thing.
Correct.
All right, so we have a motion on second.
Yep.
And then we can re-examine this.
So we have a Councilor Hayden.
I was just already voting.
All right, so we have we have a motion, a second, all in favor?
You
None
have to
opposed.
wait.
Thank you.
You know, really.
Okay, discussion and possible vote to approve Council Resolution 2025-0001, requesting legislation for validating and ratifying amendments to the Tiverton Home Rule Charter as voted on at the general election held on November 5th, 2024. Mr. Solicitor, do I need to read this entire resolution? Perfect. For those at home, this resolution is us asking the General Assembly to sponsor legislation to approve our Home Rule Charter Amendment based on the latest vote, which was to amend the charter to require the school committee to send us their financials on a monthly basis.
Just so, school department, I believe that this amendment became effective upon ratification by the voters. This is just an extra step that's taken to be extra sure because it has to do with education school departments. Generally, these type of amendments don't have to be, as a practice, every city and town does this with their home rule charter, but this is being extra cautious by doing so. But I'm very clear, the amendment is effective.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councilor DeMedeiros.
I make a motion to approve Council Resolution 2025-0001, requesting legislation for validating and ratifying amendments to the Tiverton Home Rule Charter as voted on at the general election held November 5th, 2024.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right. Discussion and possible vote to approve amended Council Resolution 2025-0002, establishing zoning revision committee to remove the requirement that one member be a town council member as established by Resolution 2024-0003. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the amended Council Resolution 2025-002, establishing zoning revision committee to remove the requirement that one member be a town council member as established by Resolution 2024-003.
Second.
If you look at the attachment, that's a little misstatement. It's actually, we're going from 2 council members to 1 council member and adding that extra space to the public. So it's a little misstated in the description, but the resolution was attached, so I'm not worried about that.
As stated by the solicitor in the resolution.
Thank you.
Oh, it's,
Who was the other council member? It was Jay, but was there a second council member? No.
There never was.
There never was. I'm just saying, I didn't think there was.
It's okay.
There should have
Yeah.
been, but there wasn't.
all right, so we get a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor? Not opposed?
We're going to go back to the appointment.
60.
So now I'd like to, you need a motion to pull that up?
No,
Okay. All right, so,
without objection.
yeah, with no objection? Okay. All right, so now we're going to consider the zoning revision committee, J. Edwards, 143 Merritt Ave, request appointment for a term ending 5/7/2025.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Welcome back aboard. Okay. Discussion and possible vote to approve Council Resolution 2025-0003, appropriating funds from the casino special revenue account as approved at the 12/9/2024 meeting. Do we have a motion? For the record, this is, we already agreed to this.
This is housekeeping to
Yep.
conform with the ordinance.
I'll make the motion if you want. Make a motion to approve Council Resolution 2025-003, I like the way you say that, appropriating funds from the casino special revenue account as approved at the 12/9/2024 meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just want to move.
All in favor? Opposed? None? Okay. All right. 7G, Councilor Hayden, discussion and possible vote to dissolve the North End and Industrial/Business Park Subcommittee as established by Resolution 2024-0003 as amended on 11/25/2024.
Motion to reject.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
I will discuss.
Councilor Janick.
So, a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a lot going on in the north end of Tiverton. There was the crematorium, there's seasons, some of that's still ongoing. And the people of the north end felt that they really weren't getting their fair shake. And as Ms. Lawton said, there's always been a divide between north and south of Tiverton. So we decided to put together a subcommittee to explore the north end of Tiverton, to look at the businesses, to talk to the residents, and to kind of develop a plan to spruce up the north end. So we developed a subcommittee. Now, in the past, there were some studies that had been done. We did look at one. It was very outdated, it was very vague. It was a study that was done, and it really never went anywhere. There was a second study that everyone spoke of so highly, we couldn't find it. The planning office was pulled apart, they couldn't find it there. One of our members spent many, many hours in the basement of this building looking for that old plan. We couldn't find it. They called former members, people who've long since moved out of town, long since have left the area, and we just couldn't find it. So we decided to develop this plan. Now, this plan, different from the others, is we hired a consultant, so we do have a contract, signed contract, and so we are liable to pay that amount, whether we finish the work or not. We've been doing this for probably about a year and a half. We've developed a plan. We have set up 3 separate little forums in the community. Last week, we had one for the business owners. Saturday, we had for the residents. Wednesday, we have another one set up for the residents. They were attended. We had roundtable discussions. We had great conversation. We had a lot of ideas. We had a lot of the business people who said, I wish I could do this, or why can't I do that? And it would be helpful if I could do this. So we've been cataloging these ideas, some of the stumbling blocks, some of their suggestions. We talked with the residents. The residents talked with the merchants. So we have given them a sounding place, and we're putting together a list of all of these recommendations and ideas. So the next step would be to put those together and to prioritize and to develop an action plan, whether we can get some state funding, federal funding, what we can do to get businesses updated and spruced up and get more action in that area appropriately. So by saying no to this committee, we're saying that there is no north-south division, or we're going to make it worse. It's saying we're not business-friendly. And this is what we're really trying to develop, is being more business-friendly. We are not getting volunteers knocking our doors down for any commissions or boards. And to say to them, after a year and a half of giving up their Saturdays, their evenings, to come in and to work on this and to work with the consultants, and then to close it down, we're saying you're not really that important. And for the people who attended, and it wasn't just North Tiverton people, there were people from the South End with great ideas who wanted to help make that division between the North and the South not really there, kind of make us more cohesive. So I really would ask that the council consider how important this is. It's $136,000. I think the people of the North End, the businesses, and the residents deserve that. So I would ask that you reject this.
Any further discussion?
What's Robert's rules if there was a reject, and I want to make a motion to approve?
I'm going to vote on the rejection first.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve after that.
No.
If the rejection passes, then it's moved.
Then it's, yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Committo.
So, Debbie, you talk about being business-friendly. So how does this benefit a business in North Tiverton as far as fixing up their storefront? Or what does it cost that business to fix up their storefront? Where do the funds come to fix up these businesses, and how do they pay for it? These funds, I understand, are solely to design a plan, correct? The funds that are...
The funds that we have now are to
$138,000.
put together a plan.
A plan.
So then we would have to develop an action plan. How do we pay for this? And it's not just putting plants outside. It's maybe developing a group and they can come up with some different things. There's grants out there. There's a lot of different ideas that came out of the 2 different forums we had over the last week on how we can make it more business-friendly.
So these past plans that have been put together, my understanding is I believe it was one of our past planners, Chris Spencer, who put a beautiful plan together. Is that the plan you're referring to that we can't find?
That is my expectation.
That we can't-
That's my understanding,
Okay.
yes.
So we've done this in the past twice now, and we haven't ever finished the project.
And I don't believe that they went out and actually engaged with the public
Right.
and with the store owners and the businesses. So that's what's different.
Can those funds, instead of developing this plan, can we find the plans that we have and maybe take the funds and put it into action instead of developing another plan? Can we find the plans that we have? Are they anywhere to be found? I know you said they weren't, but...
We looked, and we looked, and we couldn't find them. So now we have a plan put together, and some of those plans were outdated too, Craig. Businesses are different now, there are different needs. We're looking at some of the infrastructure and how can we work around what is in that area.
I just think when it comes to infrastructure, that's on the business itself, if they want to spend their money on it. I don't know how...
Not necessarily.
I don't know how we incorporate that.
Not
Unless I'm really
necessarily.
confused.
Not necessarily,
How can the plan
So,
be enforced
before we-
upon the business owners is what the question I had.
and it won't be.
Yeah, so
They
the
have to-
business owners don't even have to utilize the plan if they choose not to, correct?
They do not have to.
And one question I had was originally $60,000 was approved, and then, it was hoped that that was gonna be enough. And then you came back and asked for another 100 grand, and then from reading the minutes, it looks like there was a $30,000 grant that was approved and not used, so that was lost. So it just seems like we're kicking the can down the road here. And it would be great to spruce up North Tiverton. I think everyone's in agreement with that. But we need to take care of our 4 walls first, our schools, our fire departments, our police, our DPW, and our water infrastructure. And I just don't think this plan's enforceable. And the money that was allocated to this should be used for capital expenditures. And that's the reason why I'm making the motion that I'm making, and I put this on the agenda.
Councilor DeMedeiros.
I went to my first meeting on Saturday of this because I'm interested in being the town council representative. It's not only about businesses, correct? They also talked about open spaces, how to make it more friendly down there, sidewalks that people can walk up and down the sidewalks, kind of what you have in South Tiverton. Yes, sprucing up businesses, yes.
There's no sidewalks in South Tiverton.
Well, I don't mean the sidewalks. I mean what South Tiverton.
Councilor DeMedeiros has the floor.
I mean what South
Sorry.
Tiverton has. It was also talking about, is there any other potential properties that businesses can come into? I mean, on the north end does feel like that we don't pay enough attention, and that's how this all came about. And they have come to us, they want open space, they want places that they can just sit around. And the businesses have no parking available, so the businesses are having a hard time getting people into their businesses. So they were talking about maybe having a public parking lot and leasing that from some empty land that's available. It's not just about sprucing up businesses, it's about everything that North Tiverton's been concerned about in the past. And as far as sprucing up businesses, they talked about there may be grants where we can offer the town, the businesses, if you want to do this to your front, then this grant will help you pay for it. It was that kind of stuff. It's the whole combination of making North Tiverton better, not only for businesses, but for the community that lives there.
There are streets.
Before we come back, Councilor Perry.
I've lived in town for 45 years. I've seen quite a few studies done on the north end of Tiverton, and none of them have come to future. I haven't seen anything done on the north end of Tiverton. I'm a type of person that likes to see my return on my investment. And if we're gonna be giving, $160,000 away for trying to improve the North End, and I wanna see what we're getting back from it. And so far, I haven't seen anything. So maybe if you people could come in front of us and show us what you've done with some of the money that you spent already, I'd be a little bit more convinced of spending more money. Right now, I would say, let's put a kibosh on the money, no more spending. Let's hold that. As far as the crematory that Deb spoke about, that was paid for by citizens. They went out and got their own lawyers and fought that. Seasons is being done the same way. They're going out and get their own lawyers, and they're doing that. The North End, whatever you people call yourselves, I don't think you have much involvement in that. It's all being done by lawyers and higher-ups. So I don't think we should be doing anything with this right now. First of all, until we get our zoning done. Let's make sure we get the zoning done right on the north end of Tiverton so we can finally decide what we're going to put there. We don't even know what...
Yeah, another note I wanted to make on that, we don't even have...
We don't even know what we can put in the north end of Tiverton. I've talked to people that own property in the north end of Tiverton. In fact, I spoke to one last week. He's in the audience right now. And he said, Dave, I don't want to subdivide my property up. He said, because these people go up before the planning board, and the planning board says, no, you can't put that there. And if you do, you got to paint it white. You can't paint it red. So they're afraid to even sub up their properties because they don't even want to go before the planning board and get approvals. So let's get our ducks in the line. I don't think we should dissolve this. I think maybe we should just put it on hold. Let's put it on the back burner for a while.
Put the committee
Come back
on
and
hold?
revisit it in a couple of years, and take a look at it again. But right now, I wouldn't spend any more money on it.
Councilor Paull.
So I think we have a couple things here that there might be some wires that are crossed as well. First of all, the original allocation was 100. The second allocation was not 100. Myself, full disclosure, I voted for it. I voted for the 60,000 as well. I believe Councilman Edwards voted for it, as well as Councilor Medeiros and Councilor Janick. We all voted for it. I do share some of the concerns up here, but I'm getting confused here. Is this about funding or is this about the committee? We have a group of volunteers that have done a fantastic job so far. I have heard and I have questioned. We have a whole bunch of studies in town hall. Where are they? Where are they? It's great to hear that they were searched for. It's disappointing that they're not in this building. Again, I don't think we should just do away with the committee. And this request here is dissolution and to eliminate it. If you're looking to defund it, that's another meeting and another motion and another discussion. But I think that this committee should continue. I do agree with Councilor Perry. I would like to see at this point, and again, I say this and I don't mean this in a mean type way. Update the council on what you've done so far, where you are, and what your immediate future plans are. And if we can get that and we can get a status of where you guys sit now, the funding situation, again, this motion here is to dissolve it. And I think that's kind of premature. If we're looking to solely eliminate the funding here and save money, well, Councilor Hayden also has a list of 5 things to spend that money on. So are we saving it or are we spending it? Or is this about just dissolving the committee? I don't think we should dissolve it. I do think that we should get an update and go from there.
Before we take any more comments or discussion from the council, we did have 2 members of the public who wanted to speak on this item. So I'd like to ask if former Councilor Jay Edwards would like to speak, or former Councilor Burke, or both.
Hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Jay Edwards, 143 Merritt Avenue, former councilor. So as you all know, in March of 2023, the Town Council created the Tiverton North End and Industrial Parks Advisory Subcommittee. It's an advisory to the EDC. It was to be staffed by volunteer members from existing boards and members of the community. The preference was going to be given to those who lived in the area. The council also allocated funds to procure technical assistance for the work. The effort has been ongoing since that time, and the end date for completion has been moved several times due to the scope of the work and the massive amount of state legislation that got dumped on us in January of '24. The goal was to provide a coordinated plan for the improvement of the business climate in the area while at the same time improving the conditions for residents. Tiverton has and continues to have a reputation for being unfriendly to business, as well as not caring too much about the North End. The committee has been working diligently and is close to completing its work. Numerous meetings and workshops have been held and questionnaires have been distributed. Business owners and residents have actively participated in the process. That in itself is unusual in Tiverton. The final step will be to generate a report with specific recommendations to the EDC, who will in turn make final recommendations to the Town Council. And at that time, you, the council, will review and implement what it chooses. Now, at this late date, one of your members wants to disband that committee, shelve the work done to this point, and reallocate the previously approved funding to other uses. I urge you not to take this action and to see this project through to completion. At that time, you will have a plan for the improvement of the business climate and quality of the North End, which you can review. Or you can simply take the easy path being suggested by agreeing to dissolve this project, but by doing so, you will be sending a clear message to the town, to the residents of the North End, and to the businesses that you don't care about their concerns. That this is all a waste of time and money, and that the work being done has no value, and that everything is just fine as it is and needs no further attention or consideration on your part. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to rehash a lot of the things that have already been said and that Councilor Janick very eloquently presented the reasons why we're here, some of the things we have done. But let me just speak to a couple of things. One is, I want you to remember that regardless of whether or not you have the committee, there's a $136,500 contract with Weston and Sampson. You can't just simply let that go away without some ramifications happening for the town. Even if they decided not to sue the town for that money, take action against the town for that money, it also sends a message to other businesses who the town wants to do business with, similar type firms, that why should we get engaged with Tiverton if all they're going to do is halfway through pull the rug out from under us? So I think that's an important piece for us to remember. But in terms of, some of the things that helped us get here, I mean, I've been in town a little over 20 years, live in the North End, and have always looked at how we can improve that area. But we've never had the opportunities. We had the opportunity here by investing, and this is what the casino funds are for, to invest in the future. Okay, this is an investment in the future. Over the past couple of years, Seasons was mentioned, the crematorium was mentioned, a hookah lounge. People were up in arms about all those things. And why? Because they were done in a way that it wasn't planful. Nobody talked about what do we want there, not what we don't want. What do we want up there? And as Councilor Janick alluded to, and I think Councilor Paull, it's not just about what types of businesses or how we can help businesses improve their facades and improve their economic outlook. It's also about things like street safety. So one of the folks who was there talked about, I know we've talked about, for example, humps and things like that, which are a challenge for public safety. But he talked about those walkway, crosswalk lamps, that you push a button, it flashes, hey, I'm crossing the street, makes it safer. If you've ever walked a dog or just walked up there and tried to cross the street at certain times of the day, it's not easy, even in the crosswalks. Public spaces, both passive recreational space and active recreational space. We talked about, and I'll tell you, somebody who really came forward the other day, I don't think
He's here.
Adam, is Adam here?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, so Adam Raposa. And, you know, as those of you who have watched, you know, we did not reappoint him to the planning board, and he was not happy about that. But he came the other day, and he was really gung-ho with ideas, gave us some great ideas on that. You know, they talked about small shops, but it's also, you know, some folks, and some of these will come to you as recommendations. So the question is, where are we? So up until now, we developed this plan. So if you don't have it, if you haven't looked at it, I encourage you to read this plan. The first 30 pages or so are the backgrounds for the agency that is working with us, Weston and Sampson. The rest talks about developing the plan. So part of it was putting this, the proposal together to go out to bid and get a plan. Why are we doing this with zoning still in play? Because we want to work together, and that's partially why the town chose Weston and Sampson, because they're also working on all of our zoning revisions, and is, you know, as our interim planner too. But one of the proposals, for example, so we don't have proposals yet, so we put the plan together, went out to bid, and then we've been putting forth how we're going to do the public events that we've been having. We have a website, so if you go on our website, you'll see on there a couple of flyers. You can do the QR code. There are 2 surveys on there, a business survey and a community survey. I encourage everybody to take those and ask folks for their input. And that website is an interactive website for folks to use to give input. But again, one of the ideas that is not just beneficial to the town, and this has been kicked around, and yes, it's not going to be up to this committee, subcommittee, it's going to be up to the council to decide in the set of recommendations what they want to move forward with immediately or not move forward with at all, and what's the long-term piece. So, but one of the pieces was, I'll call it a business liaison or a business concierge. Somebody who can take the hand of a new or even an existing business who wants to expand and take the hand and walk them to the planning office, walk them over here, maybe walk around and look at potential sites for them to make us business friendly. Those communities who have done well with their downtown areas, and this is not necessarily downtown, but it's a significant area, places like Bristol, they have an economic development office staffing. We don't. So this is an opportunity for at least to start thinking about what we want to look like. I know those other plans were out there, but literally, Renee Jones is the one who was down in the basement for hours, you know, and, you know, she couldn't find them. So it's not like we didn't try, but those inform, and Ashley is also, we had the superintendent of the wastewater commission come to one of our meetings because he felt it was important for him to be part of it. So really talking about that piece. So I'm going to step aside now, but I really urge you to not take any action that's going to stop the work that we're doing and let us come forward. We will have a plan. That's the next step after these charrettes is Weston and Sampson will synthesize this material and other materials that they're researching. We have an economic development consultant as part of that team. We have a landscape consultant. We have all sorts of different consultants as part of that team. Part of that $136,000 pays for that. So thank you.
I just want to.
Councilor DeMedeiros.
Something just hit me. The Chris Spencer study is what ended up being the form-based.
Oh, yes, it was the form-based code.
The
Yes.
form-based code, and maybe that's why you can't find it, because it's under that. Because the Chris Spencer.
Yeah, it evolved into a form-based code,
Evolved into a
which is now
form-based
being put into
code.
the regular zoning ordinances.
Right, so that was the Chris Spencer, and that might be the reason why they can't find it, because they're not looking at the form-based. That's what it is, it's the form-based code.
Mike, I have a question for you. Will this be finalized in July?
I believe that's our time frame,
July. Thank you.
or close to that, yeah.
It's just so everybody's aware, the report and recommendations are due to the town council no later than August 1st, 2025.
And there will be a public hearing, too.
Correct. Thank you.
May I?
Ms. Black, by all means.
Sally Black, 64 Broadview Drive. I'm 100% in favor of North Tiverton and getting together 02878. We're all one town, we always say that. Very important. Got in trouble a lot for saying that, but I mean it.
You did.
So I worked with Chris Spencer when he did that plan. We worked in the old building up there, Judson, wherever. Freezing, shaking, shivering. Amazing plan. It really was. I called him. I talked to him about it. I said, Chris, I said, you know, you worked on that plan. Anyway. So the only problem I have with this tonight is, as J. Edwards just said, this was the North Tiverton / Industrial Park Committee set up like that. All of a sudden I see it's a North Tiverton revitalization. Where did the industrial park piece go there? I'm not aware that you can change a vote without voting again. And they also said that there would be representation from people from everywhere. I watched the interviews. The people were interviewed from North Tiverton. There was a person who grew up in North Tiverton, worked at Grand Central, lived here all her life, and now lives in the industrial park neighborhood, and she was not chosen. I would have to have, and do have a problem with that. Comes to all the meetings, tries to inform herself. So anyway, I think that's the only question I have is the industrial park. Where's that going? I know they said there's a letter, I don't know where it is. I'm 100% in favor of this, I think it's wonderful. But I did talk to Chris Spencer, and I wish he would send us what he had, because it was, you should have seen it. Just what you're all talking about, and the liaisons and the people to walk you through everything when you want to do something. And I know Renee Jones has worked for a long time on this, met with all the people up there for years, and then went down to Four Corners. We were going to do that too, work with the state to get sidewalks, but anyway.
I have 2 questions for you. Well, one is...
Councilor Janick.
Sorry.
I think my
just-
3 minutes
I didn't want her to leave. So Sally, the industrial park is part of that, and we do have, site ready?
Rhode Island Ready is
Rhode
the
Island Ready,
program
Rhode
that you're
Island
referring to,
Ready.
yes.
It's a group that we have been in consultation with, so it's a little bit separate, but it is part of that project. But I'm not sure who you were talking
No,
about.
it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, I know we want to have representation from all the neighborhoods when we do these things. You know, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
We did have Saturday at the high school, and it was advertised as residents. We thought it would pull in just North Tiverton
Well, that's good.
residents.
They all came. They
There
should.
were people from outside of
That's
North
great.
Tiverton also. Everyone was invited.
All right, so,
Can I have one?
Mr. Moniz, yes, please.
Very short, though. Like I said before, I was on the original Economic Committee maybe 30, 40 years ago. And we didn't have a plan of a renovation or a revitalization of North Tiverton. But at that time, we worked on is storefront improvements. And it was the community church authority that was behind that, ran that for the town. And we did get some buildings done and improvements. Just a highlight about the past history, I never saw any committed plans developed by the town at that time.
Thank you. So, at the risk of belaboring this thing, I just have a couple of comments. So, initially, I opposed the allocation of the $100,000 to start this committee. I do think that it is problematic that we have zoning still not finalized, but after listening to some of the testimony, and given the fact that I'm unaware if we could even sever that contract without incurring some sort of negativity towards the town, be it reputational, or actually lose out on the money regardless, haven't looked at the contract language. And then the fact that the finalized date is literally around the corner, August 1st for us, June 1st for the EDC to finalize their stuff. From my perspective, and I do think that, I think we were hasty in putting this together, given some of the other outstanding items that the town has. I think it makes sense for us to continue this thing through fruition, assuming that former Councilor Burke isn't going to come back to us and ask for another 2-year extension to get us the. Perfect. Correct. So it ultimately will come down to us, and I think at that point, we can decide what elements, we can move forward with short, intermediate, and long term. And so from that perspective, I think I'm going to vote with Councilor Janick's motion, and
Just want to
that's my comments.
wrap up my
Councilor
comments
Paull.
here. One of the things I just heard was that there was a study that was done and that it, in fact, had been implemented. So we can look into that, and that's
Correct.
great if it has. But to be honest with you, this town has so many personalities that it's kind of hard to get things done, whether it's at this table or various offices. The planning office is a merry-go-round. This council, every 2 years, is a merry-go-round. So part of the reason that we look at some of this stuff and say it never gets done, it never gets done, it never gets done. Priorities change, people leave, people don't stay. We need stability, we need collaboration. The council needs to be professional, our department heads need to be professional, and we need to get stuff done. That's what we're elected for, to get stuff done. This committee, again, is a volunteer group. The money, quite honestly, it's not even on the agenda, the money. This is just to dissolve the committee. There's no discussion on money. It's small change right now. I don't disagree, and I've had these conversations with other councilors, not breaking the quorum, but, you know,
Homemade training's next.
can we force a business owner to improve their property? Can we force a homeowner that's on Main Road of the North End to make improvements? We can't force anybody. We can make recommendations. I don't disagree that if there's grants and stuff out there that help that, great. But let the group finish their work. They've got an end date, and let's go from there. Otherwise, this is nonsensical to have this on here and deal with this.
I'd like to respond to the comments since I was.
Councilor Hayden, and then I'm going to go ahead and call the question when you're done, so.
Sure. I just want to say that the treasurer's report was submitted, Mr. Paull, Councilor Paull, so the numbers are all in there. You mentioned the numbers weren't on the agenda.
No, you said initially 60,000, and then you said initially, and then 100.
Okay, I had it backwards, so it was
It was 100,000.
it's the same difference, it's 160
And again, I
grand.
said in full disclosure, I voted for that.
Okay.
And we all did, so.
Okay, so, just a couple of things, because my name was mentioned on a few things. You mentioned, yeah, I want to dissolve it, but there's other options on here to where to reallocate the money as options. 4 of those options are for North Tiverton. Water Infrastructure Fund, Senior Center, which more than needs an upgrade forever, a playground or a rec department upgrade at Pecasset, which North Tiverton has said, oh, you've done Town Farm, why can't we do North Tiverton? All these are options to help North Tiverton as well. Or coincidentally, there's $136,152 left. Coincidentally, the school department needs $136,000 for all their doors. And then the last option says back to the capital fund. So, it's not like I'm telling anybody where to put the money. There are just viable options, and our town is having financial trouble, and this is a pie-in-the-sky idea. It's a plan that is a great idea, but you can't enforce anyone to use it. As you mentioned yourself, you cannot make a business owner utilize this plan. So we're putting together this great plan that may or may not even get used, and just hope's not a strategy. What about the businesses in the rest of town? Are we giving them anything to help them, right? And just because you bought a business in South Tiverton or Central Tiverton doesn't mean that you shouldn't be eligible to this plan. To Sally Black's point, I haven't seen anything on the industrial park, and the committee's name is so long, right? It says North Tiverton and Industrial Park. I just don't think. I think it's a pie in the sky, and there's no cap. What? In August, are they going to come back and say, we need another 38 grand, we need another 200 grand? Like, where's the cap? Where does this end? And when are we going to take care of?
The cap's right here.
Yeah.
They have to ask for it, we say no.
Okay. All right. So that's just where I came up with my motion. So I just wanted to respond to those. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. No further discussion, I'm hoping. All right, all those in favor of, and just so we clarify, since it's been a minute, Councilor Janick's was to reject the dissolution, seconded by Councilor Paull. So a vote in the affirmative is to reject.
The motion is to not approve the resolution.
Not approve.
Yes. So a yes vote is to not approve it, a no vote is to not approve it. We'd have to go back, so.
We'd have to go back. So a no vote means we go back and get another motion. Correct. Okay. All right. All in favor? Opposed? All right. Next item on the agenda, because I know he's going to speak at length, is Solicitor Marcello for some Open Meeting Act review and training Do you need it to set anything up, or are you just going to
I didn't intend to set up anything up, but
speak? Okay.
I could if you wanted me to.
No,
but
by all means.
I don't know how in-depth you want me to go. I know,
We have 2 new counselors, 1 member who hasn't been here, so
all right.
by all
I
means.
just had the class on Friday.
Yeah, so I know that.
Scratch that. Counselor Committo is going to be leading the
All right,
discussion.
so,
I can do it.
I'm sorry?
you don't want to hear me speak?
It'll be fast. Solicitor Marcello assured me that he was going to be quick.
I'll just hit the highlights. The council did get a memo from it, from me, and if you have any questions, particular questions on it, I'll be happy to answer them as we go along. As you know, the Open Meetings Act is the state law that governs how public bodies operate in the state of Rhode Island. And its general purpose is to make sure that public decisions and public bodies make decisions in a public way so that the public has an opportunity to review the inputs and outputs of the policymaking process. The Town Council is is a public body by definition, by the statute. So this applies to you. However, it only applies when there are three triggers. There has to be a quorum present, there has to be a meeting of the public body, and you have to be a public body. So a quorum of this, because there's 7 members, a quorum is 4. So anytime that there are 4 members of you present and you are meeting to discuss something that you have supervision, control, or even advisory power over, that's a meeting. If 4 of you are, at the local coffee shop talking about the bad move that the Patriots did by hiring or firing the coach, that's a quorum of this body, but you have no control over the Patriots' schedule, right? You have no control over who they hire, so that's not a meeting. So you're not violating the open meetings law. If you are attending a school committee meeting and there are 4 of you present, that's not a meeting of you, that's a meeting of the school committee. You're just sitting there observing, you're not making any decisions, you're just kind of there seeing what's going on, you're informing yourselves. So that's a distinction. We get a lot of those questions, can I attend this, meeting of the zoning board? Can, 4 of us are president, is that a quorum? The answer is, even with 4 of you present, that is a quorum, but it's not a meeting because you have no control over what the zoning board does or does not do. It's only things that you have direct or even indirect control over, supervisory control and whatnot. So that's one of the things that people get confused about. The most important thing from your consideration, from my consideration as your legal counsel, is you got to be careful of what they call a walking or rolling quorum. And I like to just analogize that for those of you who are young enough or old enough to remember the old Breck shampoo commercial. Like I told 2 friends, I told friends, I told 2 friends, and I told 2 friends and about how great Breck shampoo was. Well, that would be a quorum. So a rolling quorum. So that's an opportunity for members of this body or any public body of speaking with each other or through someone else, that you could figure out what the other people are doing. So, for instance, and the best example is actually cited in here. There was a contractor that was bidding on a project in one of the towns in Rhode Island, and they specifically put it in their contract that they did not want to have any discussions with anybody in a public forum, and it was just the contract. So the committee, the members of the council asked for an advisory opinion. Well, how can we do this? Can Craig go to talk to the contractor? Can Blake go talk to the contractor separately? And the answer was yes, but they couldn't talk to each other once they had that meeting. So in other words, if Craig went, and then Blake went, Councilman Hayden went, and Councilman Edwards went, and then and then Council Vice President Paull went, and they started talking, hey, I met with the guy, I really think this is a great thing. What do you think? Yeah, great. So now Paull knows what Edwards thinking, Edwards knows what Hayden's thinking, and Hayden knows what Committo is thinking. That's a rolling quorum. And we have to guard against that all the time. Where it's most dangerous for us as a public body, or for you as a public body, is email, right? So, for instance, I'll give you an example. On Friday, today, you got an email from the clerk with a letter from the school department indicating that there was a deficit, and it had an action plan. It was just distributed to everybody, I think at the same time, correct? If you were to start discussing that amongst yourself on email, that's a quorum, right? So if Blake, Councilman Hayden said, that's a ridiculous plan, I don't like it. Council President Edwards said, I like this plan, I'm gonna move forward with it, what do you think? Craig, what do you feel? You can't do that. If you're sharing all your opinions with one another, even though you're not talking directly, that's a rolling quorum. So that's what you need to guard against. The only exception is that you can talk to each other through email, through electronic texting, or anything like that when you need to schedule a meeting, when the council president or we need to figure out if you guys are available for a quorum or not. So that's the most important thing for you guys to.
And it all becomes part of the record, correct?
What do you mean, what?
Your text messages?
Oh, absolutely.
your phone
So,
calls.
so that's a different issue, but yes. If you're using your private phone, your private email address to conduct town business, that doesn't protect you, right? If you're conducting town business, you need to be conducting it on town property or your email. If there was an open meetings complaint and, somehow, you said, well, I talked to Councilman Edwards on my private email, that doesn't count. That counts, and I would ask you to turn that over. So the ruling is for me, my recommendation is conduct town business on town property. Use your email address. Don't use a Gmail address for any personal email, just for public business.
I've been getting my, like, agenda and everything on both my private and my town. You've stopped that, right? Because
Correct.
Because sometimes I forget which email I'm in, and I will, like, respond from my home one.
The administrator always sent it on both of mine.
Yeah.
I actually have sent some to you when you were the council president on both as well. This is the email that I had.
Yeah, they send it on both.
Right, but we will stop that, and it's my preference that we use. I know Council President Edwards, I just use his, even though I had his private email, I only use the official business for his public email. So, any questions on that?
For the record, solicitor used my private email so he could tell me not to use my private email.
I think that's true. I think that's true.
He set me up.
That's true. So as I said, the preference and the default position is that most public business needs to be discussed in a public forum. That's the standard the state statute sets. That's the standard that we all need to follow. However, the law also recognizes there are some exceptions to that, where discussing something in public might not be in the best long-term or short-term interests of the town. So they have the ability, you have the ability, as we have done in the past, to go into executive session. There are 10 specific items for which you can go into executive session, and only those 10. If you don't fall within one of those 10 categories, you cannot have an executive session. I went through this very quickly. Obviously, personnel matters are all executive session. We've had those before. Purchases of land, purchase or sale of land. We've had those before with the prior council, including the current council. There's a reason why you don't want to, you might want that to be public. Again, the choice of whether to go to executive session, with the exception of the personnel matter, is up to this body. So even though it's on the agenda for executive session, that's why you take a vote. If a majority wants to keep it open, they can keep it open, except for personnel. A personnel is closed unless the person who's the subject of the personnel matter asks that it be open.
Like, how about negotiations?
Contract negotiations, strategies, those are all closed sessions as well. And if you look through the thing that I sent you earlier, I highlighted the areas where we have most of the executive sessions. Again, personnel, collective bargaining, litigation, right? Makes sense. If we're in litigation with a party or anyone, you're not going to, and as you know, or if you haven't experienced this yet, when we go into executive session to discuss litigation, I tell you about the case, I tell you about our chances of winning, I tell you what our weaknesses are, and we go through that. You wouldn't want that in public, for obvious reason, because you don't want the other side to know what's going on. Those are the, I'm not going to go into the mechanics of going to an executive session. You guys, you council people know that. John does a good job of doing that. But again, the decision whether to go executive session is yours by majority vote, and you have a right to invite anybody you want into that executive session or at any time. That's your meeting. We talk about what you need to do once that executive session is over. You seal the minutes in executive session and you reconvene into open session. You disclose the votes that you took in executive session in public, and we've done that unless the disclosure of that would somehow jeopardize negotiations or some kind of some kind of event that we're involved in. So sometimes we do disclose things, sometimes we don't. And if we're not disclosing it, I usually put on the record why we're not disclosing it. And that's all in the law. Notice, very quickly, each year you adopt an annual notice which sets your regular meetings. So those are the regular meetings of the council. To the extent that you have special meetings or not, they don't fall into the non-regular. So we meet twice a month, and then we have like separate budget meetings. Those are special meetings, workshops, whatever. But your annual meetings are those that you're required to post in the beginning of the year, and then obviously within, long as you have 48 hours notice, you can have special meetings as well. Those all have to be on the agenda, and really the clerk and the council president, they work together to put together the agenda. But again, it's 48 hours notice. Once your regular meeting is posted, like this meeting was posted in January, 48 hours before this meeting, then we post the agenda. Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays don't count, so that's why we post this on Thursday, correct? Thursday. So, the important thing about the agenda, and this is really for more of the council president, the clerk, and myself, or even when you request something be put on the agenda, you got to give the people notice of to what you're discussing, right? So it can't be just, I want to discuss the budget, or I want to discuss, grass cutting in public parks. I'm looking at myself. I'm just, you got to be specific. You got to be specific. You got to step back and say, look, if I was a member of the public and I was getting this agenda, would I have notice? Would I understand what the council was going to be deciding on, discussing? So just look at that standard. So pretend you're not on the council, and say if Joe Smith gets this agenda, or Jane Smith gets this agenda, would he or she know what we're going to do? Whether they're going to discuss something, whether they're going to vote on something, and what the topic is. I always say the more specific, the better we are, and that's just a kind of a foolproof error. Public comment. We have public comment in our meetings. You are not required to have public comment at the council level, but we do as a matter of practice, and that's a policy decision that you have made. You are allowed to respond to the public if you want to. You're not required to. The only thing you cannot do, unless there's an emergency, if a public person says, I think that, we need to do a better job of enforcing our zoning code, or doing something else, I think Main Street needs to be repaved or restriped. You can say, why, have a discussion. You just can't take a vote on it, unless it's an emergency, unless it's like something, critical to the health and safety, then you could take a vote. But those are very, very rare. So you can respond and talk back. And that's right in the little memo. I know you gave me a look, John, but that was a change in the law about 3 or 4 years ago.
Informational only, correct?
Informational only, right, sir. Yep. Again, you're not required to respond, but you can. Nothing prevents you from responding. Minutes, all our minutes are public. They've got to be posted. Any votes taken has to be posted within 2 weeks of the meeting. The only thing that minutes require are who's present, any motions that were made, and the votes that you took. Those are the bare minimums. We do a little bit more than that. That's the clerk's role. And then they have to be filed with the Secretary of State's office. Pre-COVID, or during COVID, we had this special exception where members of the public did not have, members of this body or any public body did not have to attend in person. They could do it virtually. The first couple of years in 2020, we were all meeting virtually. We're all in our little bedrooms or home offices. And people got used to that, and they liked it. But once COVID and the executive order went away, they did away with that permission. So if you're a member of this public body and you want to participate, you have to be here. You can't be by the phone, you can't do it by Zoom, or any kind of electronic means, unless you are determined to have a disability or in the military. And you can ask for an exception for that. So I don't think anyone here is in the military that I'm aware of. But we did have a council member last term who was sick and got a special exception to appear by phone. But you have to get that permission. Otherwise, you have to be here. Where people get confused, if we had like a consultant, like say you wanted to have a consultant talk to you about zoning changes or whatever, and maybe they're not available to be in person, that person, because they're not a member of this body, can be electronic. You can stream them in. But you have to be physically here. If your lawyer gets sick and can't come to the meeting, I can come virtually. If the town administrator, who's not a member of this public body, goes on vacation and wants to, has an emergency, can't be here at a meeting, but he can attend virtually, he can do so. He or she can do so. And then I just attached the law for your review. I mean, there's a lot more to that, other than I didn't cover, but those are the basics. Please read that over. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
And I just want to reiterate too, the solicitor represents us as a body by virtue of me being in this role. I tend to interface with him more often, but nothing precludes any member of this body from reaching out to the solicitor if you have a question, if you're concerned that you may trip up into whether it's OMA or something else, please reach out to the solicitor if you have a question, so that way we avoid trouble. So,
And just one comment. If any of
Counselor.
the members want to send something to all the members, that it needs to go to Joan, and Joan will.
That's a good point. So
distribute it.
Joan is that's really not in the OMA, but it's just good practice. Joan, the town clerk, is the clerk of the council. So you'll see that even when I want to communicate with you, I cite everything to her to distribute, because that way I know that everyone gets it at the same time. So there's not like, he or she's getting it, but I'm not getting it. She is the clerk, and that's the best way of doing it. It's just good practice. Thank you for that.
thank you, Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the interim town administrator. We have a landfill grant update. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been a labor of love, as you know, for a couple years, and it was started by the former town administrator. Back in 2002, President Biden, declared a disaster for this area that made us eligible through the United States Department of Agriculture for assistance. With our help, with our congressional partners, and also with USDA, which we've enjoyed a fantastic relationship with over the years with getting grant funding, and also I want to give a shout out to the director of DPW, Director Rogers, and Parr Engineering for working with us and constructing a application to see if we were eligible, because how that storm impacted us, those of us who remember, it was a coastal storm, there was a lot of debris, and that debris was placed into our landfill, which was operating at the time. Unfortunately, we did not know that there was going to be the ability to apply for a grant, so a lot of what we had to do was literally digging our hands and elbows into the work to find receipts, to try using topographical information to justify to the federal government that we were impacted. There was no doubt that we were impacted, but like most federal grants, they want as much information, if not more. So as a result, we had we got assigned an individual USDA representative that does specific grant funding for landfills. So our original ask was for $2.1 million to assist us with the closure of the landfill, but specific to how we were impacted, that interrupted that closure. So, for the record, to be clear, we weren't asking for money to help us close the landfill. We were asking for money because we were negatively impacted by the storm, and that there were funding available under the disaster relief. So after review, I'm happy to announce that we did not get 2.1 million, but we got 1.416 million. So that funds will be used to offset how much the expenses that were going towards closing the landfill. That money's already been approved. I already have the letters from USDA. As a matter of fact, they want to come down at some point because it seems like over the past couple of years, we're their favorite customer, which is a good thing. They've helped us out in the past with DPW, police vehicles, rescues, and the partnership that we enjoy with them is just outstanding. And there was a lot of work that went into this by the former administrator and a lot of members of the town department heads. So it is my pleasure to tell you that we're getting $1.4+ million.
Also, a lot of work was put into it by you.
Bingo.
Predominantly the interim
Right.
town administrator.
By you. And I was the president at the time, so I know how much work you put into it.
Thank you.
Mr. Administrator, what does this put you at, roughly over 8 million now in grants?
Pretty close, sir.
Somewhere.
You're not gonna find another town administrator or a town director that's gotten us over 8 million in grants. So your relationship with the USDA has been gold for this town.
So, do you know what we're short now? Because we had the pay-as-you-throw money,
Yes.
and then we have this.
Well,
So there is-
initially, what happened, if you recall, that was how we were able to free up a lot of the opera money
Right.
towards the end of the year, because the former administrator was holding on to that money, knowing that we needed the money to finish the landfill project. So it kind of worked out. I mean, the timing of it was really close,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, it definitely worked out. That I do believe that we're maybe about a half to $600,000
Yeah,
short.
something like that.
The only thing that we did not get, which was part of the resiliency, is we still need a fence for the landfill for security and resiliency. But I'm working on something for that too.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Next item on the agenda is the interim town administrator Lafayette House update.
So thank you, Mr. President. As everybody knows, this is the house that is located at 3118 Main Road. By just way of travel, In my investigation into this, there was a building permit that was pulled in June of 2024. The demolition permit was also put into the system roughly August 29th of 2024, and then, so that was the permit, the request for demolition. So, and then the actual permit was issued on October 21st. And I'll read from the statute, or our ordinance, as it pertains to the demolition of historic buildings. No permit for demolition of a historic building, structure, or site shall be issued until 90 days has expired from the date of the application of such permit, has been filled with the building official. For the purposes of this article, it goes on to define what a historic building is. So essentially what we have done is fail. There's a reason why we have ordinances and we enact laws and ordinances, not only as a council, but as a community. And when we're going to hold our community accountable to the laws and ordinances, I think the first and foremost, we must hold ourselves. So in this case, knowing that this was a privately owned building by a privately owned individual, could we have had an opportunity to make a difference? Possibly, but now we'll never know. What we need to do going forward is be better and be able to preserve the historic character of our community. I've had a conversation with Mrs. Anderson at Historic Preservation. I've invited her to one of the meetings in the future so we can talk about looking at this ordinance so they are part of the discussion moving forward. What I would have loved to have done with, especially in this particular instance, I would have loved to have gotten some of the wood. It's my understanding that the gentleman who owns the house sold the wood because that wood is in high value. I am sure we could have had a conversation and maybe make a council chamber. Make something that we could have taken some of that wood and donated it back to the town. So the spirit of that house continued to live on. Unfortunately, because we did not do that, and because we did not communicate well, or even internally with our historic preservation, we're not going to be able to do that. So this is a valuable lesson that we have, and I think we owe the citizens of our community an apology for failing them, because we did not do our due diligence in preserving our character and our history. And given all the developments that are going on in our community, I think we have an absolute necessity to look at our historic preservation. And I looked at other communities out there in Bristol, in Warren, in Portsmouth. They have comprehensive, robust historic preservation ordinances. We need to sit down with historic preservation. We need to sit down with the state. We need to come up with a plan so the character and identity of our town doesn't get knocked down and demolished again. Thank you.
Thank you. Very thorough. Thank you, Mr. Administrator. All right, so next item on the agenda is the discussion, review, and possible amendments to the Town Council Governance Policy, which was amended on 3/11/2024, and the Town Council Boards, Commissions, and Committees Policy, also amended on 3/11/2024. The purpose of this is to, if anybody would like to make any changes, and then subsequently for us to ratify that we are going to be beholden to these two policies. So, do we have any alterations from the body? If not, I have some. No. Okay. So, the one item I would like to make a change to is under the council governance policy, under other governance of the town council. 7. So you have actions by the president, actions by councilors, messages. I think this is where it would make the most sense, is to include subsection D. Given the fact that the charter is silent as it relates to the hiring of the town administrator, my proposed amendment would be to add subsection D that stipulates that any full-time employee not contemplated by the town charter shall follow the processes outlined by the personnel board, so we avoid future confusion and deem the personnel board to be the body that would be the screening tool for that position. And we'll, I'm sure, massage the
Yeah,
language a
so
little bit
I
for me.
guess your intention is to have me write it up and then bring it back for a vote, is that what you're gonna do?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
And,
I can do that unless there's a strong, I guess you have to wait to see what the language is, I guess. but-
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you'll come back with that?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Counselor Committo.
Yes, John, isn't that the process now?
So
Not
it's not technically the process, it was the process that we followed. It wasn't outlined by the prior council when the advertisement went out, so.
But what you're proposing is the process that's in place now, but it's just not outlined or written down anywhere.
Correct, it would be black and white inside of this document.
Okay.
But as I've said, that wasn't the process for the last 2 town administrators, so it's fine, I'm not arguing. But you know what I want to ask? When this is presented to the town administrator, like, when they give them, does the town administrator have the ability to ask for the other?
No.
That's interesting, because, okay.
All applicants not interviewed, live and die inside of the Personnel Board executive session.
So just to clarify, what you're trying to add is all department heads, including town administrator, will be screened through the personnel board now. No longer the town administrator position will be under the town council.
The
And you're
town
firming
administrator-
up the language
yeah.
in there, so it's not silent any longer.
So in the absence
Correct.
of clarifying language in the charter, it would be outlined here in the governance document that we would follow the same process for the town administrator, utilizing the personnel board as the screening body to prevent any
Understood.
potential employment actions.
For all or just the town administration?
For any full-time employee that isn't
okay.
contemplated by the personnel board. So it's essentially directed at the town administrator.
Well, let me say this. So the charter already requires that all full-time and part-time individuals go to the personnel board, except the town administrator, because it doesn't say that. So what the proposed amendment would do, from your perspective, is clarify that by having a policy in place, delegating, basically, you have my legal opinion that you have the right to, that you don't have to use the personnel board if you don't want to. But because you have that right to make that decision, you also have the right to delegate it to another board if you want to. So that's what this rule is doing. It's delegating what I believe is your authority to do this directly by you to the personnel board. So that would become the policy of the town. I mean, that's just the concept. You'll see the language and whatnot.
Mr. President, I just want to clarify as well that does not mean that the personnel board does their screen, they do their interview, and they still forward their 1, 2, or 3 candidates to this body, in this case, for administrator, for us to interview as well.
The personnel board will
Just to
not be doing the
clarify.
hiring, we would be doing the hiring, but the screening of the applicants would go through the personnel board.
Can I have a question?
Counselor Janick.
We have a charter commission, will be seated soon, I think. If they change something in the charter, does that oversee, that's over this, or?
So if the charter is changed in contrary to this policy and that charter provision is approved, the charter governs.
The charter, okay.
So if the charter commission puts forward an amendment that all hiring goes through the town council, or it goes through just the town solicitor, then that would be
That would rule.
the law of the land.
But that could also be a charter change by us.
Correct. My intention in doing it here in the governance policy is that we enact it because we're about to vote to go advertise for that position.
I'll get the language for you next.
Thank you.
Need a motion.
You don't need a motion or anything?
Unless there's a strong opposition to it, but no.
Okay.
It's a proposal.
We can oppose it when you
Correct.
bring it back if we don't like
If you don't like the
wording.
language, you-
Yeah.
And we can make changes to the language then?
Correct.
Correct,
Yeah.
okay. Will you have that for our next meeting?
I will.
Perfect. All right, next item on the agenda, Councilor Committo, reconsideration of vote taken on 1/6/2025 regarding the request of applications received by the Personnel Board for all town administrator applicants.
Yeah, so upon, some more information that I received and doing a little bit of research and talking to the head of the Personnel Board, I feel as though I got the information, different information, a little more research, and I would like to reconsider my vote that I took at the last meeting.
So it's a motion to reconsider the entire motion, so it's
Yes.
a motion to reconsider your prior, the prior vote of this council, so.
Yes.
So what would happen if that's a motion? It would have to be second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And then, so now, there's discussion, and assuming if it passes, then
Then it puts back
issues
the original
yeah.
item.
And during this discussion, you can also talk about the underlying facts as well.
Thank you. So we have a motion, second, discussion, Councilor DeMedeiros.
The only problem I have with this is when we made the motion last Monday, I think the expectation was we were going to get the resumes last week. We haven't received them, is that true?
Correct. We have not received them.
So if we would have gotten them, as I think we talked about we were gonna get them, then this would have been a moot point. So I have concerns on why we did not receive the applications, and also who made that decision not to send them to us. Was it one person, or was it the entire personnel board? So why did they not come to us? I think Joanne's in the audience, she can answer that.
I think you should defer to the chairman.
But the chairman's in Portugal. Oh, that's what he told me. He told me he's going to Portugal for it. So what I want to know, was there a meeting where, and I didn't see one advertised, where the whole personnel board discussed it? And did the whole personnel board, Joanne, I think I have the floor, right?
Sorry.
Yep.
So, and was there a meeting where the whole personnel board discussed it? And was it a decision of the personnel board not to give it, or was it just the chairman? Now, as we all know, John couldn't decide not to do something that we needed to vote on. And so that's what I'm concerned about this, because Craig would not have been able to put this on here if we got them last week like we were supposed to. And I wanna know why we didn't get him.
Mr. President, I don't think that makes a difference with my motion, though.
Well,
It does not. I mean, the discussion is,
It's just a discussion.
Well, and the discussion also is, some of the council members might not have voted the way that they voted to receive those resumes, so that, to me, seems like why we're
Well, right, but what I'm
reconsidering
saying
it.
was, if we made a motion as the town council to have them brought to us, and that was overridden somehow, and I've never seen this happen before, where a commission and a board can override a decision that we have made. So if there's a reason, if they had a meeting, which I didn't see it posted, and they decided as a group to do it, then I have no problem that I still don't agree with it. But I want to know, no one has given me the reason why they went there last week.
So if I could just interject, I mean,
You
when
might know.
when we did request the resumes, it was my understanding that they would be coming to us redacted. It's entirely possible, we've only gone 7 days since the motion passed, so it's entirely possible that they had not redacted the information, the personal information, so we didn't have to notice any of those any of those prospective employees that we were gonna be looking at their information. So that's the only thought I have as far as
So when the redaction would be just not have their name?
name or,
And telephone number,
telephone number,
whatever.
email,
Or any
whatever.
other identifying information.
No.
I think we're being reminded now that we had up until the 27th.
Correct.
What?
Yeah, we
is
set
correct.
a deadline for
No.
us to review them of the 27th,
No,
so.
we were supposed to come back with a decision by the 27th if we wanted to interview anyone.
Correct, so I mean,
So,
where we sit today is what, the 13th, so they still would have had time to get them to us and allow anybody to view.
Everybody knows my opposition to this, I'm not gonna go on, but I do have an opposition to this, and
Okay.
what you're actually saying right now is if they come back with one application, then the personnel board has chosen the town administrator. And I wanna make it perfectly clear, that one applicant is absolutely right for the job, but we didn't get to see who else came in.
So,
And that's what I'm saying.
just because it's a motion to reconsider,
Yeah.
so, yeah, Councilor Committo.
So the process that John just asked to put forward in the new document is the same process, basically, that they followed. And that,
Yeah, but we haven't voted on that yet.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is the information that I received is basically the same information that they followed. They followed the process, they vetted it, they went through, they came, they crossed everybody out. They notified people, people were contacted, nobody got an end letter, the process still isn't over, and the information that I was doing my homework is that it was done correctly, and we're gonna ask to do the same thing, but put it in writing. That's their job, is to vet everybody out. The name came to us, unfortunately, there was only one name. Leaving everything out of it, there was one name that came to us. We probably should have acted and had an interview on that one person and kept moving forward. So I didn't have all that information at the last meeting when all this was presented, and now I have it, and that's the reason for my reconsideration. I just feel as though they followed the process, they did it right. We want to put forward the same process, we want it in writing. And I think there's a lot of other things that aren't in writing on the processes. I, for one, have been involved in the hiring process, and it almost seems like after it leaves the personnel board, everything becomes a mess. That's the way I'm looking at it. So that's why I want to reconsider my vote. Motion's on the floor.
Any other discussion? Councilor Paull?
Mr. President, I just, in general, that last week's meeting was an absolute nightmare. It was completely unprofessional. I've been angry about it since. We want to talk about optics. We get called out for optics. The optics of the best you could do is the police chief. The optics of not hiring from within are worse. The optics of not grooming our future leaders is worse. The optics of doubting our personnel board is worse than hiring a man of integrity that served this town for 30-plus years. A man of integrity, a man that holds a master's in public administration, who's done wonders for this town, who not a single person up here would disagree is the best damn thing coming to this town. So, with that, I would move to vote.
Well said.
All right. No further discussion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, sorry, roll call. Councilor Committo. By the way, yes is to reconsider.
Yes.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Now the motion's before you.
So now the motion before us is to, no, we actually have to put a motion up, correct?
Well, the original motion was to ask the personnel board to send you the resumes.
Okay.
So that's what's before you.
I'll make the motion since I made the initial one. I would, what do I say?
Make the same motion, you just vote no.
Okay.
Right?
So motion to deny.
Motion to,
No, it's the same motion. So the motion that was before you at the last meeting was a motion, can we read it? Was a motion that the personnel board that the personnel board send this council the resumes that they didn't interview. That's the motion that's now before you, because it springs back, right? So,
Correct.
So if you don't want that to happen, you vote no. If you do want that to happen, you vote yes.
okay.
Okay,
So make a motion for the resumes to be submitted to the town clerk
Right, same motion.
in a redacted fashion.
Correct.
Second. So,
Discussion or roll
any
call?
discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, roll call.
So a no means motion fails.
Correct.
A no means the resumes don't get revealed.
Correct. Councilor Committo?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
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 Okay, so the motion fails. All right. Item M, discussion and approval of job description, advertisement, and salary range for town administrator, and approve funding to re-advertise. This motion is in front of us because following last week's meeting, the sole candidate that was advanced by the personnel board, our interim town administrator, withdrew his name from consideration. So, given the fact that we only received one name from the personnel board, I believe we need to go out and re-advertise since that period has closed.
Make a motion to approve M?
Do I have a second?
I regretfully second.
Any discussion? One bit of discussion. Interim Town Administrator,
I know what you're going to ask me, Mr. President. No, thank you.
please reapply. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Last item of general business is discussion and possible vote on procedure of town administrator application review and designation of personnel board reviewing/screening authority. Because we have not solidified the governance policy, I would motion that we follow the personnel board as the screening tool for the town, whereby all applicants would be going through the Personnel Board, whether directly to the Personnel Board email or to the Personnel Board P.O. Box for review of the criteria based on the job description that we put forward, and screening before those names are recommended to the Town Council.
I go back to the first one, and do you have a deadline for applications? Who sets that, by the way? I don't know who sets that. I'm sorry.
Now that I'm not a candidate, I set it for February 14th.
Okay, I didn't see that, thank you.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
I didn't see it, I'm sorry.
Valentine's.
It's okay, because I have a copy of his stuff. He's going to be reapplying.
All right.
All right, so, motion, did I have a second?
Second, yeah.
All right, seconded by Councilor Paull. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Now, for executive, I'm going to make a motion to go into closed executive session, interim town administrator, under Rhode Island General Law 42465A5, discussion and possible vote on the disposition of publicly held property in the industrial park. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we're going to roll call vote this. Councilor Committo?
Yes.
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 No.
You got the.
Yes. Councilor Paull? No, I request us to do them separately.
Oh, perfect, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next item, Solicitor Marcello, under Rhode Island General Law 42465A2, litigation, discussion regarding Albert Miranda's charter complaint appeal to the Superior Court, Town of Tiverton v. Albert Miranda, N3 2024 0310A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Committo?
I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. I missed
Yes
it.
is to go into executive session.
Yes, sorry.
Second item.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
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 Okay, we are now in closed executive session.